All right, our goal in this is to, we're going to be talking about cells and how cells function in this unit. So, your goal is to figure out today is what each of the cell parts do of the cell. So, these are the key cell parts that you're going to need to know. There's a lot of them, but then again, there's not. There's because there's a lot more. If you look at this diagram, there's things like the rough endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, the vesicle, peroxisomes, lysosomes, microfilament. There's a lot of stuff that is not on this list. This is the key list that you're going to need to know for. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through each of them and describe them, and then what you guys need to do is fill out your table as we go through this. So first, a cell. This one's not on your table, but I'm just describing it anyway. So the cell is the basic of unit of all living things. So every living thing is made out of cells, and there's two main types of cells, and then within the one type, there's two main types of those. So the two main types of cells are either prokaryotic or eukaryotic. And we'll talk about this a lot more detail in the next section. So we're going to learn about the cell parts first, and then we're going to talk about the different types of cells. But I figure I'd just introduce you to that. But we've already heard these terms before. Remember, prokaryote, they do not have a nucleus. It's just DNA by itself. Whereas eukaryote does have a nucleus. If you look here, there's nucleus in both of these. That's what those gray circles are. That holds the DNA. So the DNA is inside the nucleus in those two cells. The DNA just kind of hangs out in the cell in those cells. And then within the eukaryotes, there's plant and animal cells. And you can kind of see the difference. Animals are circle, plants are square, because plants have the cell wall around their cell membrane, whereas animal cells only have a cell membrane. Plants have chloroplasts, that's what these green things are, and that's for photosynthesis. Animal cells do not do photosynthesis, so they do not have them. And plants have this large water holder vacuole because they need lots of water, whereas animal cells have small ones, or they don't have any at all. So those are the main differences between those cells. All right, so let's get into this type. So if you look here, we'll start with the blue section. That is called cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is just the fluid inside the cell. That's where all these reactions take place, and we'll talk a little bit about it in the Unit 5. But it's found in all cells. Other than that, it's not really important. It's just a fluid inside the cell. Now, one that's really important that we're going to focus on a lot in the third section of this unit is the cell membrane. The cell membrane is like the gatekeepers, the bouncer. It says, oh, this nutrient, you can go in, but other nutrients might not be able to go in. All right, so it depends on what you are, and we'll talk about that in a later section. But it basically controls what comes in and also what comes out. So let some things in and some things out. Other things it will keep from coming in and out of the cell. And it's made of those phospholipids. So if you remember in the last unit, we talked about phospholipids. Phospholipids are part of the cell membrane. That's what makes those up. So the next part, and these are found in all cells. So the first thing I'm going to do is go through the things found in all cells, every single cell, prokaryote, eukaryote, animal, plant. Ribosomes are also found in all cells, and these make proteins. So remember, we talked about this in the last unit. So all this stuff that we kind of build on now, the ecosystem unit, we'll just come back to and review at the end of the class. But everything else kind of builds on each other. So remember, proteins are made out of amino acids. So you take these amino acids, and the ribosome puts those amino acids together into a protein. And this is found in all cells, and proteins are very important. And we'll talk about those later on. DNA. DNA is one of our nucleic acids. DNA is found in all cells, and that controls our genetic makeup. Now remember, in prokaryotes, they're not in a nucleus. In eukaryotes, they are. But everything has DNA. They need it to live. All right, so those are the four things in all cells. The cytoplasm, the cell membrane, the ribosome, and the DNA. So now let's go down to the things only found in eukaryotes. So now the rest of the stuff is only going to be found in eukaryotes, except for the last three. Organelles. Organelles are like the organs of the cell. We're not going to talk too much about these because we'll talk about specific organelles. So organelles, all you need to know is that they're the organs of the cell. So if you ever see that word, it's just talking about the things that we're going to talk about next. All right, so just like the organs of our body, each organ of our body, like lungs, breathe, heart for pumping, these all organs have different functions also. So one organelle is the nucleus. Nucleus is only found in eukaryote cells. Remember, that's what makes them eukaryotic. And it holds DNA. It's kind of like the brain of the cell because it controls our cell. And it just is the house for our DNA. And remember, that's in plant and animal cells, only in eukaryotic cells. The mitochondria is also only in eukaryotic cells because it's an organelle, and it is responsible for cellular respiration. We talked a little bit about that in the first unit, how respiration takes in oxygen and produces carbon dioxide. But the other key thing that it does is it takes in glucose, remember that carbohydrate that we need for energy, and it makes, voila, energy in the form of ATP. And we'll talk a lot about that in the next unit. All right, so ATP is our energy that we make. So sometimes it's called a powerhouse because it's making lots of energy. The chloroplast, all right, so these two are found in all eukaryotic cells, both animals and plants. Now, these next three are only found in plant cells, which are also eukaryotic. So these are only found in eukaryotic cells, and they're only found in plant cells. So chloroplast is responsible for the other process, photosynthesis. And remember, photosynthesis takes in carbon dioxide and gives off oxygen. We talked about that in Unit 1. However, it also makes sugar for the plants. So it comes back to that sugar, that carbohydrate. So this is taking in energy to make sugar. That's then going to go to the mitochondria and be broken down for energy. All right, and we'll talk about that in the next unit, but you just need to know that it's responsible for photosynthesis, and it's only in plants, and they're green. That's what makes plants green. The next part that's only found in plant cells, so eukaryotic, only found in plant cells. They're actually found in bacteria too, but you don't have to remember that. Only plant cells, and they're for support. So plants don't have a skeleton, so they have to support themselves so they can stand up straight towards the sun, so they need support. And these are made out of, remember that carbohydrate called cellulose, and it is located outside the cell membrane. So plant cells still have that cell membrane, remember that's in all cells, but then they have an additional layer, the cell wall, outside of the cell membrane. And this is more for support, a little bit for protection, but mainly for support. And then the last thing that's only found in plant cells is vacuole. And all you need to know is that it just holds water. Remember, plants need lots of water for photosynthesis, so that holds water. All right, and the next three things can be found in any cell, and I'm not really care about if you know what cells are found in, so I blanked those out on your table, but you still need to know what they are and what they do. So the next three things are all used for movement. If you see that, that's just repeated. They're all used for movement, so cells need to move around their environment. This one, classic cell that this looks like, is a sperm cell, and they need to move. So what this is a flagella. A flagella kind of spins and pushes the cell through the environment. All right, it's a tail, and it's usually there's only one or two. So whenever you see a long tail and there's only usually one or two, that's a flagella. Cilia there's usually many. You see the differences here? Flagella, just a couple. Cilia, there's a whole bunch. All those green hairs around it are the cilia, and they're hairs. So cilia, hairs, flagella, tail. And then the last one is plasmodia. These are kind of cool, and there's videos of all of these and how they actually move the cell, located on the other slides in this website. So this is used for locomotion, and it's also called a false foot. All right, so what happens is the cytoplasm pushes the cell membrane out, and then kind of grabs and just crawls along. So it's going to be crawling this direction. All right, so that is the cell parts. So again, just to summarize real quick, you need to know the cytoplasm, cell membrane, ribosome, and DNA, and these four things are found in all cells. You need to know organelles, nucleus, and mitochondria. Those three things are found in only eukaryotic cells. You need to know the chloroplast, cell wall, and vacuole. These three things are found in only plant cells, which are also eukaryotic. And then you need to know the flagella, cilia, and pseudopodia, and those are found in which that's spelled wrong. These are found in any cell, and they're used for movement. All right, so what you're going to do next is you're actually going to make a project on these, and so you guys, once you're done with the notes, you can move on to that project.